In October 2017, after decades of secrecy and cover-ups, the dark side of Hollywood would be revealed to the world. And the sexual predation that had rooted into the very foundation of an entire industry would finally be exposed.
Unfortunately, it was a norm. Sad to say, it was normal.
I was young and looking for work, and it was when an opportunity presents itself, and everyone around you is telling you that it's an opportunity of a lifetime.
He didn't really ask me, he just said, we're going upstairs, like to my room. And I didn't really know how to take that. I'm like, what do you, I didn't know how to say no to someone like him.
The balance of power in Hollywood is massively skewed in favor of men.
It's classic stuff. It's just using your wealth and power to silence women or any other witnesses to your criminal behavior.
What was surprising to me that it would happen so soon, that I would have to make a choice ultimately, which is what I knew I was making.
Because it's Hollywood, the cameras are on.
The casting culture has been around since the beginning of castings. You know, it's, you know, I know everyone says this, but it's true. It's, you know, it's in every industry. So, you know, we call it casting here in Hollywood, but in another industry, they just call it applying for a job. So it's really, you know, since the beginning of time, since people had power, and there are other people who want to be a part of their world, there are people out there who take advantage of that power, take advantage of people who want something so badly.
The sheer number of people coming forward to share their own experiences at the hands of powerful, dangerous men in Hollywood shocked the world. But to those in the industry, this was nothing more than a long-awaited spotlight shining light on a dark truth.
The idea of the casting couch and the recent allegations that have come out have not been shocking to anyone in Hollywood. Unfortunately, the extent of some of the allegations have been the most surprising thing. I think people knew that it was not a very well-kept secret that actors and actresses were propositioned by directors or spoken to inappropriately. However, I don't believe that the pervasiveness, especially of the allegations against Harvey Weinstein, were known.
The Hollywood casting couch really is about power. And you have a lot of very powerful men who are taking advantage of that power. We see it across all industries. You see it in investment banking. You see it in any industry where there are a lot of men in positions of power and women who are not. In the years between something like 2006 and 2017, only 4% of Hollywood directors were female. And 80% of those female directors only ever got to make one movie. The balance of power in Hollywood is massively skewed in favor of men. And anytime you get a group of men that are this powerful and women who are trying to break through, there are always going to be those bad apples who use their position of power in a way to abuse women.
Yeah, she's got a real charisma. And
she does. She certainly does.
This is a dynamic where you have a lot of very powerful men and a lot of very young, beautiful women. And it just has naturally evolved into a very dark and ugly predatory arrangement. Going back all the way to kind of the big studio heads who wielded unprecedented power in Hollywood. These men preyed very frequently on young ingenue starlet actresses. And in fact, one Hollywood mogul even had an office next to his main office where he would, quote, audition starlets every day between 4 and 4:30 p.m. And everybody knew what audition meant. You have very famous stories of young actresses like Shirley Temple, who had an MGM producer expose himself to her when she was just 12 years old.
I wish all the bad things in the world could turn out to be just pretending.
Stories about Louis B. Mayer, who was running the big Hollywood studio at the time, who was basically feeling up Judy Garland, every time she would come in, she was a young singer-actress, and he would put his hand on her breasts and say, this is where you sing from, this is how you sing, and he just used it as an excuse to molest her. The stories that have long been a part of Hollywood folklore are dark and ugly, but it's only now, I think, in recent times, that people are actually calling these what they are, which is sexual predation, and in some cases, rape.
We've seen other cases in Hollywood, and, you know, these men have been forgiven in some ways, but I think people are starting to reconsider whether they should be forgiven. You take a look at the Roman Polanski case. He was convicted of raping a 13-year-old, and he had her under the influence of alcohol and drugs. He was charged with sodomy and rape.
Polanski has, through his own words, admitted that he sodomized a 13-year-old girl, and people support him.
You have to sit there and take a look, like, he is clearly guilty, and he fled the country. He did not want to serve any jail time, but he's still been able to work in the entertainment industry, and he's been nominated for Oscars, and, you know, the actors will go and fly over to Europe and work with him. So clearly there's some sort of forgiveness if you're okay with that.
So how can that happen? If you can actually be supported by the lovey community for sodomizing a 13-year-old, then why on earth should we expect people to talk about Weinstein for longer than the 5 minutes that he's going to be under the spotlight as a sexual predator? Soon the discourse will change, and it will be, these women made it up, or these women are as bad themselves. We can already see that with one of his victims, who's now been accused of being a sexual predator herself, and that somehow seems to negate what he's done to all of these women.
In the South, you don't get a beating. So what? You get a whooping.
Allegations against Bill Cosby have been around for decades. He was a very powerful actor, producer, a father figure. And I remember growing up watching The Cosby Show. It was something that the whole family watched. It was good, clean family fun. It was very transformational because it was a black family. And growing up, we didn't see people from other backgrounds on the TV a lot. There was definitely a real sense of betrayal, but also I think there's